is a 12-meter that Dawn owns. Courageous.
Wow.
Dawn is standing by. We'll get to her in a minute. She's in Oyster Bay, New York at Oakcliff. Delighted to have her on the show. Sorry we're a couple minutes late. Julia, I trust you are well.
I am, interestingly enough.
What's new? Any hot tips?
Yes.
What hot tips?
Inauguration is over.
Yeah, thank goodness. As we're watching the 12s wind down here, we shortened up the intro as you saw today on today's show so I can talk to you live about what we are doing today. We are wishing you all a happy Tuesday, a happy thank you for, and what's another word for coach, Julia?
Mentor?
Well done. It is. It's mentor. It's Happy Mentoring Day, or Thank Your Mentor Day.
Uh-huh.
We're going to talk about the Vendée Globe at the top of the show because Dawn is an experienced ocean racer, around the world racer. No more finishes since Friday. Jeremy Bayou, however, should finish this Thursday or Friday. Of course, we have Dawn as our feature today. We've been telling you about her for a week or so that she was coming on live from Oakcliff on what they call Building Leaders Through Sailing and some exciting developments that she is doing at Oakcliff that, frankly, U.S. Sailing ought to be doing, but she's taken the proverbial bull by the horns and is doing it herself. Bless her heart.
Yes.
Coaching Corner, John Emmett on recording the Coaching Corner. We're going to do, I think, part one of that today, and then we'll have part two down the road, probably Friday. Tom Slingsby, as you all will know, has won the Australians. They have won the Auckland Sail GP. Dylan Fletcher's Emirates GBR, however, are now on the overall lead after two events. Last leg is we're going to do the RORC Transit Race, the finish. Brian Earhart's New York Yacht Club Lucky Need, the Rambler 88, was the first to finish yesterday. And, of course, this day in history, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, the fantastic FOSI chat, and much more. With that, let's bring Dawn's mic up and bring her in from Oyster Bay, New York, my fellow Michigander, Dawn Riley. Welcome, Dawn.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us on this auspicious occasion. You, of course, have been the executive director at Oakcliff now for what?
15 years.
Holy
Oh,
cow.
isn't that great?
How time flies.
Uh-huh.
We didn't know each other when we were in Michigan. You from St. Clair Shores, I from outstate a little bit in Ann Arbor. But we're going to get into some of our not necessarily yours and my rivalries, but you went to Michigan State. I went to the University of Michigan. And your football rival played last night against Ohio State, which is our football rival, Michigan. Yours Notre Dame, but we'll get into all that in a minute. Let's first of all ask Julia, then Dawn, what are we celebrating today?
Did you just say mentors?
You did.
Yeah.
Thank Your Mentor Day. Today, January 21st, is regularly, each year is your Thank Your Mentor Day. And of course, mentors are coaches, our friends, our family who help you along. We do not necessarily need to delve into the history of the mentor-mentee relationship and how it began, why it began, or how to be a mentor. This is pretty much obvious. I think it's obvious. And everyone needs a person who could guide him or her out of a tough situation or just ahead with life. Whenever we are low, we want a person who could make us feel better about ourselves and would tell us all is not lost and there's still hope for us in the world. A person
promise.
who comes in and makes a difference in our lives is our mentor. And of course, that I think is what Dawn Riley and Oakcliff has been doing for hundreds, if not thousands, of young people in this country.
I thought you were going to say years.
Is that true, Dawn?
Yes. Part of the design of the program is that you have the more inexperienced people called acorns, and they come in, and as they grow up, they become saplings, and then they become staff members. So everybody here is helping, and even inside and outside of the world and Oyster Bay, we have people in the industry around the world that are there as a network. And it's become a pretty extensive and impressive network of graduates.
It has indeed. And Bravo Zulu, you've been there, you said 15 years. Mm-hmm. Hard to believe how time flies. We've been doing this bloody show now for 9 years. This is our 9th year. And, we're a lot younger. You're a lot younger than we are, Dawn. So you can take this over when we're
that's a good idea.
Take it over and run it from Oakcliff, you and
because I need another project.
Well, of course, you need a new project. Yeah.
You and John Emmett and everyone else who's on here, we have a couple of FOSI who are quite active, as you know, with your organization. Peter Taylor, to name one, and Larry Kennedy's another, and any number of others, and they're very fond of very fond of you, but also of what you're doing there at Oakcliff as a mentor.
Yep. It's all a big team here, and it's fun to see everybody on social media and on this show, and then obviously on the water. Peter Taylor with his photography, and Larry is Uncle Larry, and the Chief Bimbo, and Therese Rocklin, who's running the whole race director program, and then it just keeps going and going and going.
Bimbo being the Brotherhood of International Mark Boat Operators, and I think they've changed their name now to make it less gender specific, haven't they?
I think so. I just know that the very first time I was given a shirt that said Bimbo on the back, I was not so impressed.
I know.
Did you ever go to the saloon? They served beer and pizza and peanuts, and that was about it, in Ann Arbor, called Bimbo's?
No, I did not.
It was a famously good restaurant. They sponsored some hockey teams when I was running the kids' hockey program. Bimbo, that also means something different, doesn't it, Julia?
It does.
Huh?
Yes.
What is a bimbo when it's not the Brotherhood of International Mark Boat Operators or a restaurant in Ann Arbor, Michigan? There's a Bimbo's here in San Francisco too, isn't there?
Is there?
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
A bimbo is what? A male or female who's a bit of a... What's a male? Is that a mimbo or a mambo or something?
No, I don't know.
Next topic.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we will thank our mentors. I thought it was appropriate we run that. We have a choice of different things to run on. What are we celebrating today? But with Dawn and the success she's had with Oakcliff, and Ted Ryman down in Cape Town is saying, if I was a girl, I'd be a bimbo. But the point is, I can think of people, particularly in the sailing world, one in particular, George Carmody, longtime New York member. I think he was the longest serving trustee of New York Yacht Club.
Not a bimbo.
Not a bimbo, but as a mentor of mine. And I have not made a career move ever without checking in with George more than once on such a move. And as Ed Worley is saying, moving on. John Schaefer's on in Annapolis and lots of others. Thank you for joining us. Thanks to all of us who have mentored any of us.
Claire Harrington says hello to
Is
Dawn.
Claire on?
Yep.
Steve Groover says the word bimbo derives from the Italian bimbo, a masculine gender term that means little or baby boy or young male child, so it's not even necessarily feminine. The feminine form of the Italian word is bimba. Use of this term began in the United States as early as 1919. It was a slang word used to describe an unintelligent or brutish man.
No kidding.
You never know what you're going to learn on here, but thank you to all of our mentors. We appreciate it very much, and I've had any number, as I said, particularly New York Yacht Club members back in the day when I was just a young... I was just a bimbo. I was just a young, brutish male. We also want to thank all of you who support us on Sailing Illustrated, particularly those of you who are patrons via patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. And even those of you who show up regularly to watch, and particularly people like Dawn who come on here regularly. I think you've probably been on here, half dozen or more times probably over the years, Dawn? Much appreciated. You were going to say?
No, I just said I probably have been. I think possibly the first time was from a sailing leadership forum eons ago.
Indeed. Live from San Diego. If I remember well, that was down. There's a sailing leadership forum is coming up down in San Diego again, in Coronado, coming up here next month. We don't need to talk about that today, but let's carry on here. We are delighted to have Dawn with us. Dawn is the esteemed executive director of Oakcliff, sometimes called Oakcliff Sailing. They've shortened it just to Oakcliff, and she is going to tell us about her 2025 plans, her latest plans for, quote, building American leaders through sailing, which is what they do at Oakcliff, among many other things. Let's check in with the Vendée Globe, shall we? Dawn, the esteemed yachtswoman, sailor that she is, having sailed around the world, as well as managed an America's Cup team, so I thought we should check in on the Vendée Globe, the 10th edition of which is now into day 72. And as we told you on Friday's show, we had by then had 3 finishers, Charlie Delon, Jan Richaume, and Sebastian Simon. They've all finished. Since then, no one else has finished. They are still well outside of the Bay of Biscay. They are well down the track. It looks like Jeremy Bayou will be the next to finish sometime in the next couple of days, either Thursday or Friday this week. There is, I'm not going to go into any great detail here, but there are 4th through 12th places on the list. Jeremy, Paul, Nicholas. Sam Goodchild has had a problem. We'll tell you about in a moment. Justine Metro still the top woman. She's moved up to 8th. Thomas Rouillant, Benjamin Dutro, Clarice Kremer, another woman doing very well, and Samantha Davies, of course, as well. We've been following Jean Lacombe, the oldest skipper in the race. He is up to 21st, in Conrad Coleman, the Kiwi, who is also an American living in the Colorado when he's not living in France, is up to 22nd. Sam Goodchild was the British sailor we've been following and will continue to do so. He was 4th on Friday, but today, as you can see in this list, he has dropped back to 7th.
And slowed down.
And so, exactly, Julia, and here's why.
News in today that Sam Goodchild on Vulnerable has torn his mainsail from luff to leech at the level of the 3rd batten. This means that currently his mainsail is unusable and he had to drop it and lash it to the boom, diverting on an eastern course to find lighter winds to try and implement a repair. The damage happened when the boat went through a pair of jibes on autopilot, meaning the jibes were uncontrolled. The sail couldn't take the loaded forces, so is effectively now in 2 pieces with a top and bottom half. At the time, he was in a battle for 4th place with Jeremy Bayou and Charal in 35 knots of wind and mountainous seas, but the focus has very much shifted to finishing the race rather than battling for places. He has 2 jibs sailing downwind with 1 up on each side to make best progress. Currently he has 1,200 nautical miles to go to reach Les Abdalons. Sam has shown himself to be resourceful many times before, but this is his greatest test so far. Here's Sam on board to update us on how things are.
No, I know this one is.
Hello everyone, it's Sam. Not some great news. So we're in just gone past the worst of the wind and had a little of a whoop whoop with the pilot down a wave, and so the mainsail went from one side to the other and unfortunately exploded the mainsail in 2 pieces. So we've dropped the mainsail. And there's maybe repairs possible, but there's a bit too much wind at the moment. We've still got 35 knots. So I've got 2 jibs out and I'm trying to get east to get out of the northerly winds that are coming. And maybe try and attempt to repair. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean the Vendée Globe's over, but it's definitely not going to be the same end to the race as I hoped. And a damage limitation now, and just try and get the boat home in one piece. So yeah, pretty disappointing, but I guess we kind of knew the risk was there, and unfortunately it bit me. So hindsight's a beautiful thing. The waves are huge, it's beautiful, but anyway, I think I'm gonna have a little sleep and then have a think about things. See you soon.
Dawn, do you miss it?
I don't know if I miss it. I do miss the sailing. I was curious about what he said. It was unexpected but predictable, or whatever he said there. I wonder if he was worried that he was going too deep with the autopilots. And that is something, obviously, I've never dealt with, is racing with an autopilot or any of that type of electronics. It's always been us muscling it through.
I know.
When sorry, Julia, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I always think that, because every time we ever tried to use an autopilot, it didn't work. So and
Well,
see.
Dawn, when you did the round the world race, it was what, the Whitbread, or was it by then the Volvo?
It was the Whitbread the first time, and then the Whitbread round the world race for the Heidecken Trophy the second time.
And you did it twice. And would you do it again if the opportunity presented itself, or are you ensconced?
Well, I think I'm pretty. If I wasn't doing anything else, and somebody said, "Do you want to do it again?" Possibly, in the right project. I have this weird thing is that I'm allergic to freeze-dried food and the sulfides, which also means I'm allergic to red wine. So there'd be some accommodations that would have to be made. But I absolutely love when you're sailing with a really good team and full-on balls to the wall conditions. There's nothing better.
Indeed. Well, that's a nice video by Sail World Yachts and Yachting. We've been following those updates from them regularly. This is the ETA, the estimated time of arrival for the rest of the fleet. As we said, Jeremy Bayou, we expect in the next couple of days, followed by the rest of the group that's in now the North Atlantic, down to Boris Herman, who's, as you know from our report on Friday, has also been struggling. Clayton Embley says, you need to try good bourbon, Dawn.
Okay.
I quit drinking a year ago on my birthday, almost a year and a half ago, just for, it sounds like it's better for you as you get old not to be drinking, right, Julia?
I wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know. You don't. You hardly drink anymore. Come on, Clayton Embley, send Dawn some bourbon so she can try it. Some of your good bourbon cream, maybe, which is over my shoulder there in the back. We haven't poured that in your coffee. That's the ETA. Boris Herman is expected. That's fact. The gang is there that we are expecting to finish within this month through the end of January, and then there's still a lot more coming, and we will, of course, follow that race as we go down the track here. With Dawn Riley on, I just wanted to say that she went to Michigan State, the green and white. And Dawn, I want you to know I wore this shirt in your honor today. I don't see you in maize and blue.
No, I'm in Oakcliff blue.
You're in Oakcliff blue. You're in Sailing Illustrated blue. Dawn went to Michigan State. We really didn't know each other. You're what, 10 years younger than I? What are you, are you 60 yet?
I'm 60, yep.
Just 60. So you're 11 years younger than I. Stingray's asking, Julia, did you quit drinking today or shortly before the show?
Stingray, you know better than to ask that.
Dawn went to Michigan State, was a good sailing team when she was there. Michigan was a pretty good sailing team when I was there, thanks to Bruce Nelson and others. They are intra-state rivals, big rivals, and it's the Michigan State football game, but also hockey and basketball are big rivalry matches. Last night, Michigan Wolverines and Michigan State Spartans, but last night here in the States was the national championship college football game. Ohio State, another Big Ten team in the same conference as our two schools, and an independent Notre Dame played, and frankly, Notre Dame was pretty embarrassed. They came back toward the end, but Ohio State dominated the entire game, Julia, as you know. Dawn, yours, Michigan State has a huge rivalry with Notre Dame. Michigan has that huge rivalry, perhaps the biggest rivalry in sports in this country, certainly in college sports, with Ohio State. For whom were you cheering last night?
Well, I was at this cool restaurant in Bayville called Schultz's, and there were about 30 people from Ohio State. So by default, I was going for Ohio State.
I must say, as difficult as it was, I too was cheering for Ohio State. First, probably, and the last time in my life that I'll be doing that. I'm not sure why, but nice to see that the Big Ten, meaning Michigan, won the national championship last year, and then Ohio State comes and wins it this year. Maybe the SEC, some of these other conferences are not being dominated. But let's move smartly forward here into yachting matters. Last night, as we said, Ohio State defeated Notre Dame. We got a lot of Ohio State fans on here. Bravo Zulu to all of you in the great state of Ohio and beyond who cheer for that otherwise team. The Ohio State, Ed Worley is saying, yes, the Ohio State. Clark Chapin, who's a Michigander, as John Stewart once said, this Michigan versus Ohio State thing is like the Sunni versus the Shia. I'm not sure that's quite true, but it is fun to have rivalries in sports and college sports. And we got some rivalries brewing in Sail GP. thought we should talk about them for a moment. Dawn, what happened this past weekend, because the Australians have come back. Tommy Slingsby, after not winning last year, but winning the first 3 seasons. Season 4, he didn't win. Julia's favorite team, the Spanish won. But down in Event 2 in Auckland this past weekend, Tom Slingsby and co came back and won. The Spanish second, and Emirates GBR, playing for the big picture, as Dylan Fletcher was calling it, ended up third. New Zealand fourth, Rockwool Denmark, Red Bull Italy, Switzerland, Germany, Deutsche Bank, Mubadala, I guess it's pronounced, Brazil, Canada, and the United States, Dawn. They need to come to Oakcliff and get some coaching, some mentoring from you.
It's possible. I was with the Storm Tricycle Club over the weekend, so I didn't watch the actual racing, but I did see some of the highlights. That capsize comeback with Rockwool Denmark was insane, that they tipped over and then just stayed there and then came back down.
Exactly. I have that video later in the show.
Yeah, it's cray-cray. But there's some issues there.
Yeah, Ed Worley is saying, could Dawn please help out the U.S. SailGP team? Mark Holland said Trump said the USA would be winners in his speeches yesterday. Could someone let SailGP USA know, please? Mark's a great American. And it was a tough time for the American team. I just want to know if you wanted to comment on any of them, or what, if you were, maybe I'll put you on the spot, Dawn, if you were running the team, who would you excuse or not? Do you want to opine on that, or do you want to opine on the team?
I don't think I'm really the right qualified person to talk about the whole team and making changes. And also, I'm not one of the owners, so not up to me. I know Anna,
smart you are.
Yeah, I know Anna is badass. I know Mac Ignacy, he's been here and sailed a lot. He's super talented. And then Hans Henken, of course, and Jeremy Wilmot. So I know they're all good people, but there's clearly something that's not working together there. And I did see some evidence of trash talking and not working as a team. And you have to work as a team, especially, and this is one of the things we talk about when you're foiling, and in the America's Cup as well, and the Women and Youth's America's Cup, or Women and Children's America's Cup. It's like any other sport where you have that home court advantage because you've trained and you know what's happening. It's just happening at such a higher speed that you need to be able to work as a team, because one question, 1 second of hesitation is going to be exponentially disastrous.
Well, one hears that there's little tension between the team co-owner and CEO Mike Buckley and his skipper and longtime friend. They've done a lot of miles together, Taylor Canfield. And, they were on the podium at the first event in Dubai. They managed to finish third in light air, and they'd had some practice in Bermuda before and then in Dubai. But apparently this breeze and the new T-foils, the team did not adapt. How difficult, Dawn, do you think it is for people to adapt from big, heavy, slow boats, Etchells type boats, to then the SailGP boats, and now to the T-foils that Andrew Barkworth is asserting the T-foils appear to have helped the better skippers even more? Do you think that's true?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so at the Storm Tricycle Club, they're like, you need to steer a team for the women's 2026 New York Yacht Club Women's Challenge. And I was like, no, it's not just one person. It's the team and it's practice. So you need to have the time to work together. So whether it's the better teams or the teams that have just worked together more, again, you need to be able to have that instinct that you know and trust, and you've been sailing together. I don't think that it's just what I said before, the fact that you have a team that makes one mistake, it just is exponential when you end up with faster speed, right? You don't have the time to go, oh, wait, let's change something.
No, exactly right. Magnus, the magnificent Magnus Wheatley, whom you know well, is asking, where is Harry Melgus? Would Harry Melgus be helping this team a lot? Dawn.
Melgus is kind of magic, isn't it? But again, it's again, just like me. I might be good, but I am not good if I haven't worked together with my team and we haven't solved the problems together as a team. And you can't have one person who's off, being the star and not putting the time in, and vice versa.
I won't push that issue with you anymore. I hear what you're saying. I think everybody on here knows what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
That's a very good point. Okay, well, enough of that. Let's go to some good news. Did a little bit better. Tell us what you think of Martina Grail. They keep calling her Martini on the commentary. It's terrible. Martina Grail, Mubadala Team Brazil helm, the first female helm in SailGP.
I love Martina. I love the Grail family. So she's, Torben, her father, is a good friend of mine. I knew her grandmother, so I've known the whole family, and I was so super psyched when she got that team together, and I was really happy to see her. She's doing okay, and she's going to keep improving. I know it. There's so much talent and so much confidence and just solid teamwork.
And one hears she is a fabulous leader.
Yes.
I hear from others who know her, who sailed with her, sailed against her. I wonder if Jody Shields, who's checking in, who knows a lot more about SailGP than maybe we do here in San Francisco, because he's down in Australia. He used to do commentary for them and has a lot of good sources. Jody, weigh in on any of this, if you would, please. You're saying hi, so you're checking in from Wanji, presumably. He is back, on Friday's show. He was in Bali or
Bali.
Someplace.
Yeah.
Do you know Jody, Dawn?
I don't think so.
Look him up next time you get the chance. He's an Australian. He's been on this show a lot. He's just a fabulous guy and very, very knowledgeable, and I think quite a fan of yours, by the way. Sail World New Zealand. You know who that is? Richard Gladwell saying, speaking to the skippers in the mixed zone after each race, there were a lot of issues with the boats, which were being hung on the crews by the commentators. Yes, I think that is a fair point, Richard. Mm-hmm. Richard Gladwell. Greg Phillips saying Martina is improving at a fantastic rate, just as you heard Dawn say. Mm-hmm. And Gordon Smith says, let us introduce Dawn to Jody. Well, we just have. So I think this gal, who is a tremendous, as we said, leader, but also a great sailor and from a great sailing family, I've got high hopes for her to bring her team, first-year team. I mean, they've only had 2 regattas.
Yeah. No, she will have a great time.
And you know the family too,
I do,
Julia.
yeah.
And as you know, Dawn, she had a much better regatta this time than she did in Dubai. Mm-hmm. Let's move on. And by the way, to those of you who think that Dawn and I rehearsed this, we had about 2 minutes to push buttons and get on the air because she had a board member there. We were running a little behind here getting ourselves on the air. Dawn doesn't even know which slide I'm going to put up next. Do you, Dawn?
No idea.
Okay, the next slide after Martina is Sailing Illustrated's inaugural Person of the Year, which we ran for about a month. Dawn was one of those nominated. She didn't make it quite into the final 6, although there were a lot of people who were quite supportive of Dawn.
Yes.
And there were the final 6, and Dawn, as I think you know, by the vote of the Super FOSI, those who are on here on the show a lot and have appeared on the show a lot, we could have even put you in that mix, but I know how darn busy you are. It was Cole Brower. She won on the first ballot, in fact.
Which is really incredible.
Which was a bit of a surprise. I thought there'd be multiple ballots, but she won on the first ballot. Have you met Cole? And if so, what do you think?
I have met Cole, and she's doing a lot in terms of publicity for the sport. I would like to see her be a little more technical.
Are you voting? Did you vote? I think you did because you have in the past, and you as a former winner, I as a media person for the Rolex Yachtsman and Yachtswoman of the Year, which will be announced next month down at that Sailing Leadership Forum, U.S. Sailing Leadership Forum in San Diego. You and I both put our votes in. I voted for Cole. I'll tell you who I voted for. You may know that. I'm not sure if I told you when we talked on the phone the other day. Do you think she's going to win? Do you think she is the right person to win?
I don't know. In the past, we've always had a conference call with all of the past winners, who is one voting block, and all of the selected media, which is another voting block, and U.S. Sailing refused to do that this year, which I think makes it more of a lottery, because in the past we've been able to have really intelligent conversations, and it was not lobbying, it was not behind closed doors. It was a good conversation where you would get a feeling who was voting which way, but also you had an opportunity to use the collective knowledge. I'm actually really disappointed that this year it was, I call it a Cosmo quiz. It negated the importance of the Rolex sponsorship of the award.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, you could get on, you could pitch, you heard other people's pitches for, and not necessarily against, but for one candidate or another. I think, as you know, I said on the show on Friday and did the expose, you know as well or better than I the problems they're going through financially. And again, we are hoping that Oakcliff can step in and solve some of these problems between you and KR and America One Racing and Oakcliff and others, because they got big financial problems, as you know.
Yeah, they do.
Okay, so Cole Claire, I hope she wins our Yachtsman of the Year here in the U.S., Yachtswoman of the Year, but she has won Sailing Illustrated's first ever, our inaugural Person of the Year, male, female, or otherwise. And bravo Zulu to her. I hope you agree she is a good call in that category, and that she has done so much for, I think, in this country at least. I'm not sure how much outside of the U.S., but Dawn, when you were doing round the world races, America's Cup racing, you were on the mainstream media, the Today Show, the big morning shows, the late night shows. And likewise, Cole Brower seemed to have broken through like nobody since you or since even Dennis Conner.
She has broken through for sure. I mean, you have to remember, it was a completely different thing. There is a possible documentary being made about the Women's America's Cup team. And so I've been asked to go through all of my old notes and papers and stuff. And for the second round the world, so Heineken 93, 94, we were sending essentially a fax to one person, would get it on a machine and retype it, and then it would come out on the hot heat paper, and then they would retype it and then send it off to sometimes by mail to family and friends. So technology has improved and changed a fair amount.
Yeah, Stingray's asking, did Cole get Stingray, he's in a witness protection program up in Seattle, so we don't use his real name. I know who he is. I've met him several times. Retired sailor. He sailed at UW about the same time you did, Dawn, that you were sailing at Michigan State. He's about 10 or so years younger than I, and he's a good sailor, sailed with the McKee brothers, and is a retired Boeing software engineer, and he is asking, is Cole aware of her winning the SI award? And Rick Bannerow says yes, her team was informed, and I am pleased to say that Vice Commodore Harrington is in touch with her as well.
Oh, good.
And is extending the invitation for her to appear on the show.
Perfect.
So we got Cole, we hope, coming up when she gets to Australia. She's sailing. Who is, this gal Elizabeth that she's sailing with to Australia? Dawn, you must.
No, I don't. I know that she purchased the boat and she wants to do some training programs in Australia, specifically with women, I believe.
You don't remember her last name? Elizabeth, one of the FOSI will know here in the chat. Is she an American? Is she an Aussie?
No, she's an Australian.
Oh, she is, okay. Well, I saw a couple of the FOSI sent me links to that. She's also, the two of them, they've gone around the Cape now and are headed up to Australia from east to west. And some of them have sent Instagrams and maybe TikToks, I'm not sure. And I'm just going to look into that now to see if any of those are really interesting. Josh Tosa, whom you know well, Dawn, is on saying those Rolex conference calls when he was working for U.S. Sailing were some of the most outstanding sailing conversations I've been a part of. Julia, you would say, of which I've been a part.
Yes, dear.
Huh? Tell Josh. You give a finger wag to Josh for his grammar. That's right. And I think you would agree, Dawn. And, it's like when we did the Cole Brower thing here, we talked live on the show. Mm-hmm. We had we had 21 Super FOSI who've been on the show a lot. And they not only pitched several times.
Yeah, there were really good conversations.
They were indeed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I don't know why our sport doesn't do more of that, Dawn, why we cannot be open, be transparent, talk open. I mean, is it just because you and I are from Michigan and Julia went to Stanford that we're willing to put our you-know-whats out here on the table?
No, I don't think it was the sport that didn't want to do it. I think it was the organizers. That would have been right around the time that the head of marketing excused himself.
Yeah, because the head of marketing, as we said on the show Friday, is leaving the end of the month. And we know that the non-sailing CEO, thank God, is long gone. Thank goodness. You and I have some views on who ought to replace him and what they ought to do with that organization, but we need not go into that here. And just to say that U.S. Sailing has got serious problems, and thanks to people like Dawn, like Claire Harrington and the New York Yacht Club, like Brad Reed and Sail Newport, and continuing Paul Kayard and the America One Racing, there's still a lot going on because we've got the Olympics coming up in 3 years' time in our country, Dawn.
And yeah, it's awful.
I do know that the athletes are just keeping their heads down and trying to get stuff done. I'm actually frustrated when I hear people say, well, we can't fight because we have to support the athletes. Yes, you have to support the athletes. Stop talking about it and just do it. So I have a lot of people that say, oh, we have money. We have all the money. No, they have the money. No, they don't have any money. We have money. It's about so much more than money. It's about how to work. It's about timing. It's about planning. And the biggest thing is just like in Sail GP, it's about working together. So when you look at Hans and Ian, you look at the bronze medal we got, it was because that squad worked as a squad. So the 49ers worked together and they overachieved compared to what everybody thought. But then there's other classes that decided to go on their own and had all of the money and they underachieved compared to what all the pundits thought. But I checked back in my board minutes and I had told our board, watch out for the 49er because I saw the way they were training and I thought that they are most likely for a medal with Danielle having a challenge on the physical side. And if she was right on the edge on her size for what we're seeing in the kites.
Totally. Well said. And there's a lot of comments. Julie always reminds us to go back and read through the comments because there are lots of great comments on here. We don't have time to read everyone, funny or otherwise. Okay. Dawn, let's go to Oakcliff. And I pulled right off your website, and we have talked about Oakcliff many times. It's a youth and adult training center for athletes who have progressed beyond traditional coaching methods and want to take the next step in their career, whether as a sailor or as a short team support team. Located in Oyster Bay in Low Cost Valley, New York, they offer trainees a proving ground to develop their skill set and professional network in the three big areas of competitive sailing: the America's Cup, the Olympics, and the ocean race. Oakcliff's goal is to build American leaders through sailing. Dawn.
Yep. Isn't it pretty amazing as I'm just seeing you read that mission statement and that website has been there for at least 10 of the 15 years, maybe even more. And it still holds true. And the key to it is we do so much in so many different areas, but the key is to building American leaders through sailing. If we had said that we just want to build rock star sailors, that would do nothing for the overall sport. So when you have people that are good human beings and they're showing leadership and they're working as a team and they're progressing forward, we're going to have a lasting impact. The challenge is that somewhere else on the website, it says, and this was 15 years ago, we've fallen behind. And I don't think that we've done a huge collective American job of catching up and being leaders worldwide. With that being said, Oakcliff graduates bronze, Oakcliff graduates won the ocean race, Oakcliff graduates in the youth, women's, and in the Real America's Cup. So there's a lot of us out there, but we need to get the whole country working together.
Dawn, what's this new project? And I'll pull that link that you gave me earlier. But tell us in the meantime, what's this new project that you're working on, the collabs? You've done one in Detroit now, and you're going around the country and doing, as I said at the top of the show, what U.S. Sailing should be doing, but you're probably doing it, not only doing it, but even better.
Well, I like the fact that you said the collab, because I was deep into watching Emily in Paris and everything with the collab. And then I tried to explain it to other people and they thought I was crazy. So it's collaboration and celebration. And the concept is that we would have a party before or after, but the most important part is the collaboration. And that is to bring everybody together in all of the regions and they're divided into 3 different sections. The athletes, which can be any age, high school, middle school, 55-year-olds wanting to retire and become a professional boat captain. The organizers, which turned out to be the longest session, because that way you're talking about club managers, regatta directors, umpires, opti parents, college coaches, and it just keeps going on. And then the funding section and the funders, it turns out everybody wants to hear about, but that is, how do you set up a foundation? How do you raise funds, sponsorship? How do you, as an athlete, figure out when to spend money, when not to spend money? As a parent, when do you hire a coach? When do you tell your child you're special, but not that special yet? Go to another roll tax and roll jives. So it's basically a self-help coaching. And the one we did in Bayview, I stood there in my boots that were wet because it had snowed, and I talked for 4.5 hours, 4 hours and 45 minutes straight. It's just a fire hose of information. But the coolest part is that and I'm going to do more in Chicago on February 1st, is pausing so that we can have the input from the group when they have the solutions. And then anybody who's actually attended any of these will have access to a back end where we'll have all the great ideas and links and information so it can continue to build.
Super.
So that is super. You've done one, as you said, at Bayview Yacht Club in Detroit, and you had a big turnout, I gather. And when is the next one?
The next one will be February 1st in Chicago. It's actually going to be at the North Sales Loft because they have a huge parking lot and the loft, and John Baxter's a friend of mine, and it was going to be at the Chicago Yacht Club for a brief moment, and that failed, and I called John. He's like, sure, this sounds great. So they're helping promote it. It is open to everybody, and that's why it's nice to have a neutral spot, not necessarily a yacht club. Bayview is different. My brother is a member there, and it's also called Barview, so the party is just next door. We didn't have to worry about the celebration. And in Chicago, it's the afternoon before the Pink Pony Party. So the Midwest has got the partying down. And then we're also looking at March 22nd after Mardi Gras in New Orleans and working on the celebration there. I think that will be very unique, but we're going to be at the brand new, I think it's Libby and Robert Alexander Community Sailing Center. So that's a neutral spot and something new, and they can celebrate. And if their party, they want to do fundraising for that organization, that's great. If they want to fundraise for Oakcliff, that's great. If they want to fundraise for somebody trying to do the Olympics, that's great. And then we also are doing February 22nd, Norfolk and Hampton Roads. And I'm still working on Austin, Texas, San Diego, Long Beach, San Francisco, maybe Seattle, and the April 25th at the Spring Boat Show in Annapolis. That will be our culmination. So we figured that way anybody who wasn't able to get to a regional one in their area will be able to travel to the Spring Boat Show in Annapolis.
It's a great schedule.
It's filling up.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Dawn, Alan Long is asking, has anyone reached out from Cleveland?
No, not yet, but somebody from Toledo drove up to Bayview. We had people from Toledo and from the University of Michigan and from Port Huron, we can talk about it. Cleveland is that's like the beginning of, that's a perfect example of one of the concepts that we're sharing here. When I was way back and spoke at Edgewater Yacht Club, they had something where they had built a dock and they were encouraging people to come out and go sailing on their beer can races, and they would just stand in a line and the boats would come up and say 2 or 3 or however many people they needed. They'd have their life jackets, they'd jump on the boat, they'd go racing, and it was good because it wasn't like, oh, I only want to go with who I know. And so it was really like a mixer on the water, exposed people to different types of sailing. And I've spoken about that. And Bayview Yacht Club now has Thursday nights. Well, they started a few years ago, but it was from this conversation. They call it Hitchhiker Thursday, where you just come down and you get on a boat.
Great idea.
Yeah, more and more clubs are doing that. John Emmett's talked about that in his reports on and off over the years now. And Cleveland is a particularly, as you know, because they got the 3 clubs. They got the 3 big clubs. They got other smaller ones, but got Manor Harbor Yacht Club to the east and Edgewater downtown, and then Cleveland Yachting Club in Rocky River to the west.
And
but you need these clubs to be I can understand Chicago sometimes is a little, the downtown station. The other station up at, what's that called? What's that harbor called? Something Harbor in Chicago.
Belmont Harbor.
Belmont Harbor. That's a lot more of a dinghy-oriented session, but I'm sure John will do a good job for you. And are you thinking about doing any of this outside of the U.S.?
Oh, God, not at this point. One of the questions is, how much are you charging? I say, nothing. You just need to get the venue and do the promotion. We're bringing the program and the expertise and doing all the data collection. So, and it's Oakcliff's gift to American sailing and trying to bring American sailing up to the next level. I also am trying to request, but kind of demand, that everybody signs up into our database, so then I can get them the information that comes up. So a perfect example is one person did not sign up, and she was talking about childcare as an athlete. And because of my Women's Sports Foundation contact, I came up with an article that came into my desk. I'm like, oh my God, Shelley needs to see this. And I didn't have her email. So I was like, sign up, because I don't have time to be your secretary and chase you, but I have a lot of information that comes flying through my desk and at Oakcliff that I want to share and pass on.
Well, bravo Zulu. It's any number of comments. This is what U.S. Sailing used to do, 2 meetings a year. We keep talking about it on this show. You get together, you trade practices, you discuss, you say this works, that doesn't work. Okay, and as we all know, what works on a small pond like I grew up in Michigan is not going to work on San Francisco Bay necessarily, and vice versa. Although some things that work at big clubs like St. Francis might also work at some little paper organization like my home club, and on and on. So you're doing, as Gordon Smith and others are saying, isn't that what a national sports body should be doing? And we know that Alistair Murray, the immediate past president of Australian Sailing, was doing that, going around to each of the Australian states and having such a gathering like you are doing, Dawn. So bravo Zulu. And Josh Tozo is asking, are you moderating all of these, Dawn? He may even be volunteering to help out.
Yeah, so we're looking at, every time we go someplace, we bring as many of our graduates back. Ethan Johnson, our training program director, was in Detroit already and in Chicago, and we're building the PowerPoint. So in an ideal world that this could go forward with a different moderator. But at this point for this spring season, I plan to be at all of these, and we'll see what 2026 looks like. I think that we're going to, as I said, there's this documentary, and assuming it comes out, I think I personally am going to be sucked into that. But it's the kind of thing, frankly, I was so done with our NGB and with Olympic sailing. And I told Hunt Lawrence, our main benefactor, I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore. And he said, oh, that's unfortunate because Marcus is coming on Thursday. It's like, damn it. So had dinner, wasn't totally inspired after that. And then a couple other things happened.
Marcus being the new high performance director, the Brit who went through Germany and helped bring them in the medals, and is now his last name is what?
Lynch.
Marcus Lynch, and he's now the high performance director. What do you think of Marcus?
Well, I wasn't impressed. He's heard me say this before. I was like, this isn't Germany. You can't control like you want to control. You have to use what is good in America and what the strengths are and do your best to organize. And this, one of the slides that we have in the beginning is what is sailing and then what is sailors. And we have like one of our team's photo, it says characters, and they went match racing and they decided that jean shorts were the best uniform. We have somebody else who raced as a clown. You have these crazy, exciting, creative people, and you need to do your best to organize them, but you can't dictate to them what is allowed and what is not allowed. So that was my biggest thing there. But I just kept getting more and more and more frustrated. And then one morning I woke up and I said, screw it. We're going on the road. We're going to give it one last shot. We're going to try to sort this crap out and help people help themselves. That sounds on high. We're going to go out and do the work and make it up as we go and collect all this information and celebrate how many cool things are happening in the world that even in this age of social media, the club down the street may not know about.
Yes.
Bravo Zulu,
Absolutely.
again, tell us about your website, because you're also doing something that U.S. Sailing, I think, on the website should have been doing a long time ago.
Yeah. I guess I should get pissed off more because this was another morning that I was quite upset. And this is, as soon as I finish doing the rest of the cleanup data entry, will theoretically be a website that will be all events in 2026 worldwide that you would travel to as a person or you would take a boat to. So the pro level ones, you might go, if you're wealthy, you go and you bring your own boat, or you might go and watch. The small boats like the fins that you have up there, that would be something that you would take your boat to. The NASA Ocean, and we're not trying to do it for all beer can races, although you did see in there Winter Wednesday. So it does have the Oakcliff, since we're doing it. It has the Oakcliff stuff up there, and we're playing around with. I have another meeting with the developers, but this all happened because our program is in August. We start thinking about the next year. In September, we start building out something that's called the whiteboard, and it's a 6,000 line Excel spreadsheet of every day, holidays, what days are off, morning meetings, workout sessions, when programs start, stop, and we have to build that around the other, the big programs and the local programs that are relevant to us. So it would be the Bermuda race one year, the Halifax race another year. And I was screaming because I went to U.S. Sailing and there was nothing. I went to World Sailing and there was only a few things. And in the room was this guy, Enrique Hirata, whose son is going to be a sapling. And he came up after me. He goes, I can help you fix this. So he's been working with us as a donation to Oakcliff, and we're building the back end. The most important thing that I've realized as we're going through this is we're in that planning process. So is everybody else. And yet nobody's talking to each other. Case in point, World Sailing moves the youth sailing onto the Gov Cup. And all they had to do was pick up the phone. And so one of the things is, you had it up there before, there's tags, and one of the tags will be tentative. And so if it's something that's in planning, you will be up at the very top. You will be able to, I haven't made that part live yet, but where it says tags right now, I think it says youth and, if you just click on that. Yeah, U.S. Holiday Youth, Women's, it has grade 5, but it'll say tentative. So that way, if you're thinking about putting a match racing event up, you can put it as tentative, and then you can sort by tentative, and then you can say, oh, wait, the people down the road have a match race. We're thinking of a match race. Let me pick up the phone, because there's also contact information, and where it says register for this event, it goes to the website. So it's a huge planning tool for sailors trying to plan their career, their travel, because it has the the location, so the date on it. And then Enrique, because he's such a great designer, is saying, well, then we can make this available for clubs to do internally. We can have predict win with their weather forecasting. We can have the scoring. We can put the tracking on. But for right now, let's just start with organizing our sport. Just a little.
So it's an event portal for particularly events in the States, but also big international events as well.
Right.
Yeah, Ed Worley is saying, "Oh, you mean you're going to communicate and cooperate? What a novel idea!"
Yep.
Unbelievable. Well, we don't need to go into U.S. sailing anymore, Don. I ran, as you know, the expose on Friday and people were shocked. They had no idea they'd lost so much money in 2023. I rue the day when we find out how much they lost in 2024. Because we know that they've fallen on hard times because they're going around now and hat in hand trying to borrow money from clubs, from trustees, from organizations such as Oakcliff to try to do something to keep the doors open because they can't pay their December and January bills, or so one hears.
Yep. So I was on the board a long time ago, and Gary Jobson was there, I think, before me, and he had worked on a marketing positioning thing with, I think, Charlie Layton. So we're talking a long time ago. And the tagline was, "Your passion organized." Since they dropped that, there's been a problem because that's all that U.S. sailing needs to do is organize sailing. And so that's part of what we're like rising from the ashes to try to sort out. And the Olympics is something that's not easy. If it was, everybody would have a gold medal. And it's not easy to organize, and it needs to be a full-time job. And I didn't say too much publicly, but I called every board member when Alan was there, and I put in the time.
Alan Ostfield, the former, dearly departed, not dead, dearly departed, late non-sailing CEO.
I put in the time. I tried to fix. I offered solutions. I followed up with documentation, and it was like I became more and more attacked in Oakcliff by some people at U.S. Sailing, and it's just, I try to be positive. I try to step up, try to do the right thing. We have an amazing team here that works their asses off and can solve anything. They're redoing a lobster boat. Look at our Facebook page, because I'll put up a video either later tonight or tomorrow morning that's just fun. They said, okay, the lobster boat's ugly, so let's fix it. And they've redone all of the interior, the gel coat, reinforced the deck, found compartments we didn't know. That's kind of attitude. We can just get it done. And I was just so frustrated with what was not getting done and exhausted.
Understandably.
Yeah, it's a great idea, Dawn, is what Jody Shields, and we've introduced you to here virtually, digitally. Great idea, Dawn. This should be the role of our governing bodies, but all they give a damn about is the Olympics. All they give a damn about is the Olympics, high-performance sailing. Remind me again why sailing as a whole is dwindling. And as we keep saying on this show, as you say, and you and I say privately, and a few other people we talk with, you look at what you do at Oakcliff, what Brad Reed does at Sail Newport, what the people do at the other community sailing centers, and what people do at the give or take 1,200 yacht clubs around the country. They all do this stuff. They have lots and lots of volunteers who want to help the sport, make the sport better. All U.S. Sailing needs to do is what they did when John Bonds was executive director, or I was executive director, or Harry Anderson before me. Coordinate.
Yeah.
Coordinate. Help.
Talk to each other.
Communicate. Talk. Have a couple meetings a year. Trade best practices. Trade ideas. Trade new ideas. And then be sure the racing rules get out, and be sure the rating rules are available and get out, and that the officials know how to run the rules and run the rating rules.
Ironically, in the past 15 years, one of the challenging spots when with the board was the offshore department. The offshore department at U.S. Sailing is thriving and doing great. It's all of the other stuff, and I don't know. Somebody said go run U.S. Sailing. I said I can't. But at Oakcliff, we're going to do what we can to give back. We're a public nonprofit. We're fueled by volunteers and donations, and the board member, Denise Stiers, that I had here yesterday and today, my voice is actually a little sore because we were just talking so much. There's so much happening. It's exciting, and we just need to keep it going.
Yeah, and Magnus has just chimed in here on the chat. And where is world sailing in all this? Oh, don't start me. And part of it, as you know, Julia, and this was your world in the National
Volunteers.
Volunteer, what was the organization?
National Center for Voluntary Action.
National Center for Voluntary Action in Washington, D.C. And we as a country, and I think as a sport, not just the U.S., but across the board, are at our best when the volunteers are running the place, and we have a small staff of paid professionals who kind of keep the paper shuffled and can help lead the way after the volunteers have made some decisions. But as you know, Dawn, at U.S. Sailing, the volunteers don't even like to go work there anymore because the paid professional staff were making the decisions rather than the volunteers. And it's organizations like Oakcliff, like the clubs, the classes, and the class associations. Look at how the class associations continue to poop along, do just fine on their own without much help from anybody because they're all volunteer, basically.
So that's one of the things that we do in this collab tour is we really set the tone that we are here to very well define the problem, and then we can find a solution. And then the part that's more surprising to people is if you come up with a solution, we're not going to accept it until we can define the problem, reverse engineer it. Because a lot of times you have somebody go, oh, we need to do this. And nobody ever thought about what problem is it that you're trying to solve. And then you can refine the solution.
Dawn, I promised you we'd keep you for less than an hour because I know how busy you are. It's now 14:04 here, so it is 17:04 there on the East Coast. I have one more slide for you, and this was taken by one of our FOSI, who's one of you mentioned at the top of the show, Peter Taylor, one of your stalwarts, who loves to go out and volunteer for you, as do a whole host of other people there in and around the New York area, the Northeast. He took this picture, he says, it was by far, he took it actually last year, not this year, but it was by far his most popular shot from the Oakcliff International World Match Racing Tour Grade 1 last year, 2024. Zach West's team, the bow person, was no Martha Parker. Now, why did he mention Martha Parker? Do you know why?
Did she fall off boats a lot? I mean, I know Martha, she's amazing, but I don't know why he would reference her there.
No, actually, he mentioned Martha Parker because after the show on Friday, Julia and Martha was on watching, and we called Martha because she had made a comment, and I hadn't talked to Martha in a long time. She is amazing, and it was 40 years ago this year that she started Team One Newport, her big chandlery, her big, it's a shop in Newport, Rhode Island, but also a big mail order sailing chandlery. I don't know what else to call it, mostly soft goods, clothing, and so on, but she does an amazing job. She's also an amazing sailor. She, Dawn, I call her the original bow chick. She was John Coleus's bow person in the J24 days when they were winning the Worlds and the North Americans and so on. And we called Martha, and she's coming on the show.
Oh, good.
And I mentioned that to Peter Taylor. I'm not even sure why, or maybe we mentioned it on the show. Peter Taylor, as it turns out, went to school with Martha. Really? And has known her since they were in middle school or high school or something. So he texted this picture to Dawn while she was on the New York Yacht Club cruise last summer. Even Stan Honey noticed the picture, loved it. To mark Dawn, and he sent it to me this morning, to mark Dawn for you being on the show today and to acknowledge Martha's skill. This is not Martha, just for the avoidance of doubt. It's somebody else who is not nearly as skillful.
But I just want to give you guys the after story. She went under the water there, slid along the boat, pulled back up. I'm not even sure if she lost the shoe or if the umpires got the shoe, and she ran right back to the bow to finish the mark rounding.
Wow.
That is a great,
that is a great story. Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
my goodness. So the WMRT, the World Match Racing Tour, you've got the Grade 1 event, and that is when? And also, what's the U.S. match racing circuit of which you run one of their events?
So we have our very first regatta. It's all on the calendar. You go to oakcliffsailing.org and go to the calendar. It's all there. The first, so you're on I haven't populated that calendar yet.
Okay.
So I gave you the secret link,
Oh.
but and it will be published before the end of the month for sure. And it'll be promoted on our calendar and take you there. But the very first regatta we have is April 5th, which is something crazy like 76 days from now. The David Storrs qualifier for the U.S. Match Racing Championships that next weekend. The cool part is that then we have the Clinigata, the World Match Racing Tour Academy, which is probably the most universal way for anybody, but especially young people, to get better quickly. And that is in July. It spans the weekend of the 12th and the 19th. And then that goes into in August is the Grand Slam series. And the Oakcliff International is Monday the 4th through Thursday the 7th, which sounds weird, but it dovetails right in with Sawanica's Thompson Cup, where they use our boats and equipment.
The formerly known as the Swedish Match 40s.
Mm-hmm.
What do you call them? The SM 40s? The Oakcliff 40s? What do you call
Call them Match 40s.
Match 40s.
And it's a little bit because Swedish Match was a tobacco company, and I just didn't want to promote smoking at a training and coaching center for athletes that should be healthy.
One of the great photos. And
Yeah.
that person not only didn't get hurt, but managed to pull herself back up on the ass end of the boat, did you say, and get up there and do the mark rounding?
Just straight back up. Yep.
Bravo, Zulu. Good.
When they're young, they bounce well.
Yes.
And Alan Long's asking, did she get her shoe back? But you said that she did get her shoe back, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it does look like her shoe is on her. Julie, it looks like your foot.
I know.
When you lose your shoes in the chair, when we move Julie around, one of her shoes inevitably comes off.
Yeah.
Claire Harrington, Vice Commodore, esteemed Vice Commodore, and if she continues to play her cards right, will be the first female Commodore of New York Yacht Club come December. Continue to fight the good fight, Dawn, Claire is saying.
Thank you. It's exhausting, but it keeps me alive.
Yeah.
Dawn, anything else for the good of the order before we let you go?
No, I just we're a public nonprofit. We're out there. If you're in the areas where we're coming, please show up. Please don't fall into it's not for me, it's for somebody else. Look forward to meeting a lot of people and collaborating and then having some big ass parties. And then again, the Oakcliff programming with our offshore, our Triple Crown, our match racing. There's something here for everybody. My goal would be that this year our bunkhouse upstairs with 43 bunks is full all summer long. So go to our website and check it out. And I guess you can call me, but look at the website first.
Well, people don't realize you've got, people have tried in the States. You remember Association Island that Bill Benson and the gang tried to get going, or is that before your time?
Before me.
And it was in the southeast corner of Lake Ontario when the 76 Olympics were going to be in Kingston. So I had nothing to do with it, but I sailed there a lot. I raced there. And it was an old General Electric holiday camp, and there were cabins that were terrible. You've got a full-on facility there where people can be housed in, proper comfort.
Yep.
So,
and we built it ourselves with volunteer labor, and yeah, it's worked well. And they keep it clean, right, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Graham Sweeney, who is a Brit living in Scotland, you've probably seen him on the show, Dawn. He's saying, "Take note, America. This is how it's done. Well done, Dawn." Mm-hmm. Matthias Collins, who is a South American, but he's an American living in South America and a big soling sailor. He's saying the 11, 12, 13 U.S. Soling Nationals at SSA, Severn Sailing Association, Annapolis, close to the boat show. So keep that in mind. And Tom Fishbeck is saying, let's keep up the good work of keep improving the sport of sailing in America, but let's keep improving it across the globe. And if you want to donate, Dawn, look, you didn't know I was going to do this, but if you want to donate to Oakcliff, there is your page on your website.
Thank you.
and people should donate. It's a great way, and after they've donated to Sailing Illustrated, right, Julia?
Or even as they are.
Or even before. We'd be delighted for those of you who are on here that want to get onto Dawn's website, the Oakcliff website. There are so many people, including a number of our FOSIs we mentioned.
Yep.
Dawn, Bravo Zulu, congratulations again. Will you come on and give us an update after you've done 2 or 3 more of these? And by the way, we didn't talk about this either, but if you want to come on and do a show and do virtually what you're doing in person after you've done a few of these, let's do a live show for a couple hours and just do the Dawn Riley Sailing Illustrated collaboration.
Okay, maybe we can do something like that. We'll have to bring it up because it's a crap load. It's a fire hose of information.
Good. Well,
But if the nice thing about live video is it does work, and once you have it, it's already packaged. You can use it again and again
True.
and again.
Yep.
and you can just, you must have a deck that you're
Yes.
using, and you just send us the deck, and I'll ka-chunk the slides through as you talk to them. And I'll
Okay.
keep, as hard as it is, I'll keep my mouth shut and let you run the show.
Okay, we'll talk.
And Julia will too. It's harder for her.
No, it's very
It's
hard
even
for me.
harder for her. Dawn, take good care. Nice to hear from you. Happy New Year.
Indeed.
Same to you.
Talk soon.
Bye.
Okay. Dawn Riley, the super sailor, the executive director at Oakcliff Sailing in Oyster Bay, New York, which is on the north shore of Long Island, as they say, Long Island Sound. Her plans for, taking to the yachting centers in this country, large and small, exactly, well, I don't need to repeat what U.S. Sailing should be doing, what U.S. Sailing used to be doing. Thanks, Don, Rick Bannerow, and others echoing that. Thanks. I've got John Emmett's report up next. John's in the chat, and we had a bit of an audio problem this morning, and I've got his report, but as I said, there were some audio problems. He's re-recorded it, and I don't really have the facility to go grab it, I don't think, and play it. So what I suggest we do is postpone it till Friday. And it's a really important report because what he's done is shown how he does his coaching corners.
Yes.
And I think that's important for everybody to see, and the audio, to have perfect audio and so on. And he had some background noise. He managed to get that eliminated. So my suggestion is that that John's coaching corner, we postpone that segment to this coming Friday. He's already got a show in the can for Friday. Maybe we'll do 2 shows from John on Friday. And also part of that, what he's talking about, by the way, is talking about his volunteers. He used the volunteer effort at his home club at the Castle Cove Sailing Club. And it's another club, all volunteer club. It's there in Weymouth, and it's we love his segments too, Stingray, and we think that what he's done. I've seen his report for today, but as I said, I think best that we use his revised with perfect audio because I think it's so important. So with that,
You didn't mention that Sailing Illustrated's group of the year
is volunteers.
Is volunteers.
Like volunteers at Castle Cove Sailing Club and
Right.
beyond. Exactly, Julia. So there it is. There's the slide. And we like to say at this point, John Emmett Sailing, get to the front of the fleet, and we'll we will run his segment on Friday, and maybe we'll run 2 segments of his on Friday. Thanks again to Dawn Riley. Let's get on. Yeah, John says you can blame the volunteers for being too noisy. Well, they had people out there with there was a big water, high pressure water thing that was in the background and so on. So we'll run that on Friday. Chris Fury is saying, just booked my tickets to hear Lily and John speak at Sandringham Yacht Club
Oh, really?
on Tuesday, February 11th. Now that is in Melbourne. That's Alistair Murray's home club. So
Right.
John and Emmett John and Lily rather, must be heading down there. John, I think, for the Ilka something or another's. So good stuff.
Oh, we need to get that.
DeMarc Collins says it's all those champagne corks popping at the Castle Cove Sailing Club. Okay, thanks, John, for that. Let's do a Bravo Zulu now. we've been talking about this big event that happened in Auckland, and I think we should cover that with some, what's the word I want, Julia? In some detail.
Uh-huh.
They had a terrific, by all accounts, they had a terrific event, big breeze, big crowd, and Magnus, as Magnus knows, and his police, they had no carnage, although they had some capsizes. They had some interesting sessions, but luckily there were no collisions or serious collisions. There were nobody hurt. There was one sailor hurt, the Canadian sailor whose name escapes me, was hurt and went to hospital. So the Canadians didn't sail the second day, and I think it was either their wing trimmer or their flight controller. Again, I didn't catch the name, but so there was a person hurt. But we have people hurt before, not only in Sail GP but in our sport. So it was, however, a very interesting event. We had a bit of a watch party on our Saturday night, the Sunday afternoon in New Zealand, to watch the finalists. And of course, most of you will know the Sunday finalists, the final three were the Australians, Tom Slingsby's team, the Brits, Dylan Fletcher's team, and Julia's favorite team, the Spanish, with Senor Botín on the helm. And that's what happened on Sunday. They actually had the greatest number of races they've had yet. They had four. They jammed, somehow Ian Murray jammed 4 fleet races in that 90-minute window of television time on Saturday, on their Saturday, our Friday night. But let's just talk about their time. Got 4 fleet races in, then they got 3 races in on their Sunday, 2 fleet races, then the grand finale, which of course was won by the Flying Ruse. Left to right there on the top row, Jason Waterhouse, Sam Newton, Kinley Fowler, Tom Slingsby, Chris Draper, who's a Brit, and one of their 2 female strategists, Natasha Bryant, was on the boat this weekend. Jody Shields says, I love the new format with more races. Some did, some didn't, Jody. Some would have preferred longer races, more laps, and fewer. But as Rick Banner was saying, the short courses created the time for the extra fleet races. Jody, I'm not sure I agree. I felt like the whole thing was just a bit rushed and it was a bit frenetic.
Yeah, I did too.
Is that the right word?
Yeah.
It was a bit helter-skelter. Do you remember the Beatles song? Helter-skelter, da-da-da-da-da-da-da,
Yes.
helter-skelter. That's what I felt like. I was getting nervous here. I thought I was going to have to take some heart medicine or something there at watching that stuff.
Yeah,
go.
no, it is true.
Frenetic. So the winners, the Flying Ruse, Tom Slingsby's team, and there were some interesting moments. This was one, courtesy of the New Zealand Herald, and thanks, Stingray, for sending the link. Auckland Ferry, this was during practice on Thursday, I believe, before they got racing Saturday, Sunday. Auckland Ferry cuts, the headline of the New Zealand Herald, cuts through Sail GP practice, causing drivers to swerve. Well, it wasn't that big a swerve. It wasn't that big a problem. Everybody knows the ferries, as on Sydney Harbor and here, the ferries have the right of way, and everybody's got to stay clear of them because they're on a schedule, they're on a mission, people know who they are. And okay, the teams had no problem, but you would think from the commentary that this was a big problem. Auckland Ferry forced Sail GP catamarans to divert when it cut through a practice session. This is the subheads from the New Zealand Herald. The ferry had the right of way and maintained a safe distance from the catamarans, according to Auckland Transport, who runs the ferries. The video of the incident has amassed, get this, 2.8 million views. That was on Instagram, with Sail GP confirming all safety precautions were taken. Watch the video.
Got a ferry coming down through the course. A little bit of extra flavour on the start line for the teams to work out with here. Start line, red line on the right-hand side of our screen. That pole predictor puts us in the middle of the line as the favoured place to start. Canada tries to thread the needle around the front of the ferry. Pole predictor says Canada's favoured from here, but I think he's a click early. Switzerland well positioned in the middle of the line. Top of the line, there's going to be no room in there for Emirates Great Britain. Oh, there's short.
This practice racing, it actually looked like the Brits were a little early. It looked like they crossed the line before the line turned white, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That was, okay, you want to see that again? I mean, you'd think this was the start of World War 3, but it was just this little ferry boat, nicely through. The sailors worked around. It was no problem. Andrew Pindar, who was down there watching the racing, thank you very much for sending that through. Now, and if anybody wants to see that again, I'll play it again. But Jody Shields is saying, with this format, the racing is pretty much over after the first lap. Well, it's pretty much over after the start, Jody. I think the winner of the start, or first or second, at the first mark won every race. It started to feel a lot like the America's Cup. And Rick Banner was saying, yeah, another Crutonic pole position failure. They have that computer-generated pole position, which never turns out to be right. Philip Laffin is saying Larry Ellison is on a press conference right now with Donald Trump. Is that right? What is going on with that?
Declaration of confidence in America's potential.
Now that Trump
under
is
a
a major infrastructure.
new president. Let me be a new president. I didn't say it. They did.
Copyright strike,
So I
we won't do
appreciate that, fellas. But it'll ensure.
Okay, so there's some kind of a press conference and major announcement about infrastructure here in the U.S. that we've been hearing about, Julia, this morning on the news. Do you know what that's all about?
No.
But Ellison must be there. It must be part of the announcement,
Right.
according to. Okay, well, maybe I'll keep an eye on that with my multi-screen TV. You see, I can switch, Julia, to the multi-screen here, have our slides on the top, and have live TV here, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
What a studio. Thanks to our FOSI and our patrons who give us a few bucks a month. Clayton Embley is saying Larry Ellison is front and center. Well, we'll watch and see if he pops up. Again, I hope the presser was SailGP related. Maybe he can get Trump to become a patron of SailGP. Wouldn't that be good? Huh?
Yes.
That's what's going on. There it is. You can see the press conference there over here. There are our slides coming off the Mac Mini, Mac 2. There was Dawn, and there is the program out. That's what's going online, so I can always check to see what is going online.
Mm-hmm.
But let's carry on here. There was still no French team sailing in Auckland because, as you know, their new boat, they I don't know, drew the long straw or the short straw, but they did not have a new boat ready because they decided to get one of the new boat for this season. It was not ready for Dubai, but it was supposed to be ready for Auckland, but there was several problems with the wing. The wing was not operative, so at least fully functional. So they did not race. They got average points. I think they were awarded 5 points so far. So it was, however, quite a series. Here is the highlights. Here are the highlights from day one.
Quite simply, day one in Auckland was epic. Lady Liberty leading the way.
Big gust of wind on board the US boat.
Huge.
I'm going to pause that because we got
each building's 500,000 square feet. There are 10 buildings currently being built, but that will expand to 20 and other locations beyond the Abilene location, which is our first location. The kind of applications that we're building, to give you an idea, maybe the most charismatic and the one that I think touches us all is.
There is Larry, though, at the White House. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
We'll keep an eye on that. He is front and center, as you've all been saying. Good show, Larry, good show. I don't know, what is he announcing? Can somebody put in the chat of what?
Probably, maybe one of the big energy centers.
Could be. For AI, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think he's also trying to buy TikTok, so I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I think he was one of those who was trying to buy TikTok.
Well, that'd be good.
Let's go back to the day one highlights from SailGP.
Crowds, mega action, and super tight racing, with underdogs having their time in the limelight.
Nice one, guys.
The surprise performance of the day was from the new team, Red Bull Italy, with the addition of France's wing trimmer Jason Saunders and new strategist Maele Frascari. 2 third places sit them with a chance of the Auckland final. New Zealand took their time to find their form, ending the day with a victory at the relief of the sellout crowd.
Oh, that's going to look very, very pretty on the overall standings.
The Kiwis are in 4th place overall, well within reach to keep the fans happy. Defending champions Spain made the podium after day one. They were always in the mix, playing it smart and fighting hard for every inch on the racetrack. Emirates GBR started the day with a huge victory in race number 1.
What a great start.
They sit in second overall after a comeback in the final race of the day, which saw them claw back critical points. Australia had their F50 locked in and the T-foils under control.
It's beautiful maneuver by the Australians.
With top 5 finishes in all 4 races, they topped the leaderboard by 4 points, and no doubt the Aussies will be gunning for the title on Kiwi waters. 4 races, 4 different winners. Great Britain, Australia, Switzerland, and New Zealand all come away first day race winners. And look how tight it is all the way down to 6th place. Top 3 will make it on into the big grand final here in Auckland, and it's going to be a big day tomorrow.
Okay, that's the end of that video. There's a lot of black there at the end. So tell us, Julia, what were you seeing? I see in the chat about AI, and they're building $500 million worth of AI centers in Texas. Clayton Embley is saying, what's that all about?
I only know that there were announced, but that there would be built, but I didn't know where and by whom.
What is Stargate? Is that what this is being called?
Stargate is the 60 or 260 satellites that are going to span around.
Is this in addition to what Musk has already? Oops, there's Dawn. She's off the air. Is that in addition to what Musk has already put up with his star?
No, it's part of that.
Oh, it's part of that. Okay, well, there's some kind of a big AI, I guess. You all can $500 billion. Oh, it's 500 billion. Mark Holland, thank you. Claire Harrington, 500 billion. $500 billion investment. And it was originally only going to be 100 billion. Apparently Trump pushed for 500 billion. So I don't know who's the gentleman.
Oh, maybe that's maybe that's for TikTok.
No, I don't think it's, there's the AI guy right there, isn't it? Who's on the air now? Isn't that the AI guy?
I don't know.
Starlink is what, isn't that the AI guy? What's that guy's name? It was the CEO of Chat GPT or something. Or no, I don't know. We'll take that off the air. It's all a part of the rise of the machines, asking for a friend named Arnold. Yeah, Starlink is what, that was what Mr. Talk about helter-skelter. This show's a bit helter-skelter. We're jumping all over the place here. Sam Altman, thank you, Clayton Embley. Sam Altman, I think he is on the air at the moment. There he is.
These guys can maybe share more about some of the work they're doing there. I think they'll jointly be some of the leaders about driving progress here. But I believe that as this technology progresses, we will see diseases get cured at an unprecedented rate.
Okay, enough.
We will be amazed at how quickly.
I don't want to get a copyright strike. We'll go back to SailGP here and keep following that because it's obviously a huge amount of money, $500 billion. Blah, 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 more what is going to be. Been here before. Steve Atkins is not impressed. Some others of you are. So I don't think it's Starlink like the internet, satellite internet system that Elon's put up. It's this AI, global AI, or at least national AI setup. $500 billion, serious money. Okay, back to SailGP.
It's the energy that they're missing, and large enough quantities. So that's something that's absolutely necessary to be.
Stargate, not Starlink, Julia.
Yeah.
Okay. So back to SailGP. This was, the World Sailing ran actually it was a little TikTok type horizontal or vertical rather, little video. It was not that good, but this is from SailGP. This was what the boats looked like coming into the finish line, which I think, which is just off to the right side of this shot. And it's pretty amazing when you get 20,000 people in the grandstands and another 5,000 people they estimated on the water, something like that, watching a sailboat show. They did fill the grandstands both days, so bravo Zulu to them. And here it's a rather long bit, it's about 8 minutes, highlights of day 2, which was 2 more fleet races, and then the final winner take all between the top 3.
Look for that line to turn right. The Australians are lit up. Wow! What a start by Slingsby.
Oakcliff around it. Coming down here in 2, 1. Rolling down.
New Zealand from back in the pack looked to me like they could sneak round 3rd, and that race for the final is pretty crucial. Oh, take a look at the Spanish. Oh, they got very, very loose.
Emirates GBR throwing in an extra maneuver, and Australia able to go straight in.
Yeah, they did, and look, it's tight in the pack here. Germany have made a big gain back on board New Zealand. New Zealand have to dip behind. High pressure move. Oh, and they're putting that water over the boat. What will Denmark in 3rd, chiding down in a moment? The Australians are off the foils, top of our screen there. They got too high, but Great Britain, they're moving away. Very much a match race between the two of them. Great Britain must keep clear here. Slingsby's not going to let Fletcher off the hook, and he really puts the clamps on him there. Advantage with Australia. And that Spanish boat, well, they looked like they couldn't control the power earlier on, but they're up to 3rd, doing a great job through the fleet, and the Italians as well.
Better, it would help too if I turned my mic on. So yeah, we've just lost the video for some reason, so let's get that fixed. And
because of the
no, I pushed a button here that affected it, so it was my fault, not Trump's or not Mr. not the president. I nominate Stevie McWanker for 2025 non-SI Person of the Year. Oracle are planning a joint AI venture called Stargate. Yeah, I was muted there for a sec. Sorry, gang. So let me go back. I'm not going to replay that whole video because it's just too long. But they did not, unfortunately, they had a day 1 highlight, but they didn't have a day 2 highlight. So you can see in the bottom of that screen at 7 minutes 27 seconds. And what I did was try to take just the last little bit of a much longer video. We got a problem there, so I'm not going to run that. Sorry, I had the audio up a bit too loud there. There it is. I'm not going to replay it, but let's go ahead and show you the rest of what we have here in the show. The Black Foils, the Pete Burling's team, had a really difficult go. They did finally win the final race on their Saturday, but other than that, they didn't make it into the final 3. So it was a bit of a rough patch for Pete Burling. And this is what the website, SailGP website, said. New Zealand driver Peter Burling is unpicked. The team's, I don't know what that means. Unpicked, I guess, picked through or analyze the team's mixed racing performance at home in Auckland, which saw the team finish 4th in front of home crowds. The Kiwis picked up uncharacteristically inconsistent fleet racing scores of 4, 8, 6, 1. There's the race they won, the last race on Saturday, and then a 4, 6, 2. And they really needed to win that race, that final race, to get into the final 3, but they didn't, of course, which meant the team failed to qualify for the 3-boat winner takes all final. Burling described the second day of racing as frustrating, you think, and revealed the team was plagued with tech issues, as several of you said in the chat. From a wing sensor issues, which mean their training window was cut in half, to another wing fault before the first start. It meant we couldn't really move the wing like normal, so there were some really pretty weird gremlins in the boat.
Yes.
This is a problem when you have supplied boats, league-supplied boats. And I think Russell saw that in not just the Kiwis boat, but we've seen it previously. And I think they're going to really have to up their, Julie, they're going to have to up their boat maintenance program within SailGP. Here is a news report from 3 News in New Zealand on Sunday night.
Organisers and officials might have been quick to hail the first Auckland Sail Grand Prix a success, but the same couldn't be said for the Black Foils' performance. After failing to even make the final in Auckland, the team isn't short of motivation heading into the next leg of the circuit in Sydney. Lucy Thompson reports.
Plagued by tech troubles from the get-go, the Black Foils were no match for the Aussies on Auckland's Waitemata Harbour.
Winning moment goes the way of the Australians.
And sailing is one of those sports where they can be so dominant. In the America's Cup, they're dominant. They had a great last season in SailGP, so coming to their hometown and beating them is very, very hard to do.
Our humble neighbours securing bragging rights heading into their home event of the season.
Definitely frustrated we couldn't put together a better result here this weekend, but it's super exciting to see the way the group's improving, and looking forward to trying to knock the Australians off on their home turf in Sydney.
But first, there's a few technical issues to iron out.
Had a sensor issue in the wing, so it kind of meant that our training block before the racing was cut in half, and then you're on the back foot from there, and then we had another fault at about a minute to go to the first start where we couldn't really move the wing like normal and just got stuck on max camber. So yeah, some real weird gremlins in the boat.
Failure to resolve it in time for the second race, resulting in another slow start for the Kiwis.
The way we managed to, I suppose, keep in the game and then put together a good last one, give ourselves a shot, but it wasn't quite good enough.
The advanced onboard systems throwing up plenty of challenges for sailors across the board. But the development game isn't about to stop there.
We're already building some of those the light wind foils, because in many ways the high speed is spectacular enough as it is, but the low speed we know we need to speed that and enhance that product more.
It's hoped the new design will be ready in time for the New York leg in June.
Well, you can talk about the Kiwis having technical problems and gremlins in their wing or whatever. But Julia, as you saw, you were on watching that whole thing on our Saturday night, their Sunday in New Zealand. They had consistently strange, if not lousy, starts. They kept starting kind of to lure to the pack and trying to come in at the pin end at the last minute.
Yes.
And then accelerate below the fleet, below meaning the wind, downwind of the rest of the fleet. And the teams that came in and hit the middle of the line or even the top of the line, meaning the upwind or starboard end as you're looking at the line, got to the first mark first, pretty much. And the Kiwis kept coming, enhancing the product. Ed, it's sad, but this is a product. And it is a product. And Russell's looking at it as a professional sports product. And John Emma thinks they were coming in late and at the leeward end because they were trying to solve a problem with their wing. Well, that might be true too, but consistently starting down there was a bit strange indeed. But regardless, the Kiwis did the deal. They won the regatta. Again, Spain were second, the Brits third. There are the results with the U.S. in 11th. After being on the podium in Dubai, they finished last here in New Zealand, sadly. And the Brits, again, you got to look at this, and you got to look at that crowd, but that's not why I put that slide in here. Yeah, the Oz won. Did I not say that, John? The Oz won. The reason for putting that slide in is that you heard Dylan Fletcher say at least once that we heard on the audio, and maybe other times, apparently there was reporting back on shore afterwards, he reminded his guys, the big picture. We're going for the big picture, which some of us took to mean, let's not screw this race up. Let's just get into the final three, then win the regatta. And I think he meant that, but I think he also meant, let's look at the overall results. This is a long season of what, 12, 13, 14 races. So it's a lot of races, Julia. Let's stay at the top get to and stay at the top of the leaderboard, which they have done. Because after 2 regattas now, Dylan Fletcher's Emirates GBR team are in first, 6 points ahead. No, it's not 6 points ahead. Tied with the Kiwis, actually, I beg your pardon. Tied on 17 points. It's very tight at the top. tied on 17, and then the Australians in third on 16 points, then Spain also on 16 points.
Yes.
But of course it's early. Then the Danes, surprising everybody, I think, except maybe not Gordon Smith.
Nope.
France, U.S., and the France with their 2 5-pointers, they're up in, well, 6th place. The U.S. in the 7th, and on down to Mubadala. I can struggle to pronounce that. Mubadala, Brazil. Steve Gruber saying, I suspect the shore crew had a bid on to convert the fleet to the T-foils. Maybe some other maintenance got pushed back. Let's not forget SailGP is a TV show first and foremost. Yeah, sadly. And also for the spectators on shore. But, I mean, Russell's a smart guy. He and Larry will figure out that you got to have a proper product for all concerned. Yeah, Clark is saying, yeah, well, aren't the Olympics also a made-for-TV show? Yes, sadly, that's really what they are. And it's hurt our sport a lot by having the races in lightish air because they have to, the show must go on, and they get as they did down in Brazil, the races right up against the shore when it's not very good racing and on. Yeah, Rick Banner was saying, isn't that funny? France hasn't sailed, and they're ahead of the U.S. That is true. Now, you can say, Julia, one thing is that SailGP is gaining popularity because there are several memes. I'm going to show you 4 memes that have appeared, and thanks again to Stingray and others of you, but particularly Stingray, who helped dig these up, and I dug up a couple. Watch this meme involving Team Rockwool Denmark when they had this capsize we talked about with Dawn. Near capsize. There's no audio of this, but I've never seen, I have never seen a boat come so close to capsizing and not capsize. I mean, you look, the wing is not quite parallel with the water yet. And they managed to come back up. And these are all over Instagram. They're all over other places, these memes are. So it's kind of cool. And that, of course, is Team Rockwool Denmark. We'll look at it again here.
And just move everybody to port.
Well, but they're already falling down. You can see them falling down, at least to the center beam.
Mm.
There's one sailor climbing up who's down there on the leeward, 2 sailors down there climbing up the trampoline from the leeward side.
Yeah.
But they did manage not to capsize. There's still 4 sailors up there on the windward, what was the windward rail. Okay, that's Team Rockwool Denmark. We've seen that enough. Now, this is Martina Grail's team when they augured in. Watch this. And we got audio for Mubadala, Team Brazil. Look at their bodies. I mean, they're wrapped around them. And what happened, they say it's still under investigation. I think they hit something. Does anybody know what happened? We'll show it again, but watch this. They're going along. This is slow-mo, I think. And they jibe, so they're going downwind. Got to give Denmark a bravo Zulu, Clark is saying, and Gordon is saying, for not capsizing. But whatever happened here, this is the Brazilians.
Mm-hmm.
And look, somebody almost fell out of the forward cockpit. And they must have hit something. Ed Worley, that's what I'm wondering. Steve Gruber says, I will be playing poo sticks by myself if necessary the next chance I get. I just need to find a good venue. My childhood venue is 45 minutes away on private property. I don't know what happened, but that was serious. And they got racked around. The ragdoll, the ragdoll video.
Right.
That was mentioned last Friday. Thank you, Rick Banner. Okay, now we get more serious, even more serious.
Okay.
This is Team USA's famous auger in.
Oh, there's a big gust of wind on board the US boat. Have a look at it. Oh, they plug it. That could be a huge huge problem. That boat's going to be full of water right now. They're going to struggle to re-accelerate. What a mistake there, falling off the foil through the jibe on the downwind leg. Disaster. Oh, there's a big gust of wind.
I got to turn the audio. I can't stand Stevie. I'm sorry, Stevie. Shouting and screaming. Look at that. Look at. We don't have to look at that. We're watching it, Stevie. We don't know what broke on the boat, but they had lots of. This was again in training. They had lots of problems after that. Okay, it was that last time we watched that. Filled the boat up, but that also resulted in memes, some funny stuff, and some of which they promoted. Ooga. Rick Banner. Okay, enough of that. So here's the first such meme that started showing up on Sunday. Taylor Canfield bailing out. You want to see that again?
Here come the rubber dubber splish splash splish splosh. Here come the rubber dubber splish splash splosh.
Ed Worley, the driver, the carnage on the water, not train. Oh, that was during a race. Thanks, Billy Lynn. Yeah, that was during a race on the first day. Okay, here's another meme that showed up. This, of course, Taylor Canfield in the mix zone in the post-race media interview area.
I think we're sailing the boat well at times. You know, we went out and did a bunch of practice laps, and it felt really good. And it's a different game, obviously, and there's a lot more wash. And
a lot more water.
It's tricky. I think everyone here will tell you that.
Stingray liked this one.
To, polish up the little things.
Polish up the little things. Thank you, Stingray, for sending that one along. And yeah, that one was brilliant. That's pretty good. They're all funny. And maybe the sport needs some memes to become more popular beyond all of you who are yacht racers, all of us who are yacht racers. I think that Midwest Sailing, meaning our little chandlery at our home club, could get them Elfstrom bailers at a discount. I don't know about that. One more meme. It's not a video. It's just an image. And I couldn't find the original image, although I did see it. And I don't think that's Taylor. Is that Mike Buckley? I think it's Mike Buckley, who's the CEO and part owner of the team. Yeah. And as you can see, the hand is a little awkward there on the. Can you see that, Julia?
Yeah.
He's not really carrying that bailing bucket. He's got a briefcase under there. And in the original picture that I saw, somebody has photoshopped that bailer, that hand bailer on there someplace. So you got to admit that was clever. Yes, that's Buckley's bucket, Stingray is saying.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Well, that team's got some problems. We wish them well. We hope they come good, and maybe they will. And then again, maybe they won't. I hear, well, I'm not going to say it. I do hear there are some issues within that team. The next event is next month in February. It is in Sydney, and it is the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix in Sydney. It's back on iconic Sydney Harbor, the 8th through the 9th of February. Hopefully Jody will be there bringing us some inside scoop and information. Mm-hmm. The Australian event, according to the SailGP website, has cemented itself as one of the most anticipated events of the summer, drawing thousands of fans from around the globe. I think that's a fair statement. It has been a very popular event, Julia, and we're looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
Watch parties, well, we can talk about that when we get closer to it. Thanks again to Dawn for being with us. This day in history, speaking of Australia, I thought it was appropriate, Julia, to do with this day in history. I know a lot of you, it's not exactly sailing, but I've been to this event. A lot of you have been to this event, and we're talking about the Australian Open. What happened on this day in history, Julia, the 21st of January, 1990, and I'll tell you, it did happen at the Australian Open. Any idea?
I have no idea.
Here's your second clue. You know who that is?
Oh, yeah. The tennis player.
Tennis player. That's John McEnroe, the American tennis player, born in 1959. and still alive and kicking, doing ESPN commentaries. Good commentator.
Mm-hmm.
That's McEnroe. Ted Ryman knows. Yep, there he is. Superb tennis player. Mac's last major, no. Chris Fury's got it almost. McEnroe's outburst. Yeah, it was more than an outburst. This is a guy who's won 17 Grand Slam titles, 7 in the men's singles, 9 in the men's doubles, and 1 mixed doubles Grand Slam title. Are you kidding me, Groover? That was his favorite line when he was arguing with the umpires.
Mm.
Well, this is what happened at the Australian Open on the 21st of January, 1990, and we have the video.
In 1990, John McEnroe, appearing for only his second time in Australia, took on the relatively unknown Swede Mikael Pernfors in the 4th round. But the volatile American, renowned for his on-court tantrums, received 3 code violations, 1 for intimidating a lineswoman.
Code violation, unsportsmanlike conduct, warning Mr. McEnroe.
1 for smashing his racket.
Code violation, racket abuse, point penalty, Mr. McEnroe.
And the other for swearing at the umpire and the tournament referee.
Ken Farrar has overheard McEnroe swearing.
Code violation, verbal abuse, default, Mr. McEnroe.
Whoa!
Game, set, match, point.
That's the end of the match. The former world #1 thought he had 1 more violation before he would be ejected, and was leading 6-1, 4-6, 7-5, 2-4 at the time. But the code violation rules had
Remember
just
all
been
that?
reduced from 4 to 3 warnings.
I wasn't watching it.
Well,
but I
it was the
remember hearing
first
about it.
time somebody got ejected from the Australian Open. Of course, it's bloody McEnroe.
Yeah.
And it was the first time since 1963 that anyone had been ejected from a Grand Slam tournament. I mean, the guy, he deserves a finger wag, Julia.
He does.
Huh? What a crouton. I mean, he was famously emotional. So
has gone down in Australia.
he is also very popular down there in that event. Now, he's commentating for ESPN, doing a hell of a good job.
Yeah.
And it was either on Sunday or Monday, but I think it was on Sunday. He did a post-match interview with this sensation from Italy, Mr. What's his name? Sinners. This was an excerpt.
Emotional. You know, generally, when I've been in Italy, Italians express themselves. You are able to control yourself so well. I want to know how you do it.
We can say we are a bit different, me and you.
Okay.
But it shows that, everyone is different. Everyone has his own mentality. I have mine. I have to say I'm quite happy with my one. But
what are you saying?
Oh, I think we stop here. I think it's better.
All right. Let's give it up for Yannick Sinner. Well done.
Yeah. Yannick Sinner is his name. He's the Italian great. I mean, the kids, along with the Spaniard and a couple others, they're just fabulous. And this was either from yesterday or the day before. I'm not sure which.
Mm.
And he, McEnroe goes out there and said, well, I'm a bit emotional, and you Italians have the reputation for being emotional. Why are you so calm? And the kid handled it
very well.
Beautifully, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Whatever happened to Bjorn Borg. We have standards down under, I think. Pedro Foiling Sailor is saying, well, that's what happened on this day in history in 1990, the 21st of January. The first time a player was defaulted, to put it. That's how the New York Yacht, they wouldn't say kicked out or disqualified. They say, Mr. McEnroe is defaulted. Right, Claire? And Claire's saying he's adorable. It's like New York, when New York Yacht Club used to come along.
Oh, yes.
When you'd sailed all summer, June, July, August trials, and maybe you're into September, and you're the straw hats, as we used to call them, were coming across Newport Harbor over to where the boats were on the Newport shore side, on the city side, because I won't bore you with all that. And they'd come over, and you could see them coming, and especially if you had a bad day, lost a race or two, or you were practice starts and so on, hadn't done. and you saw them coming slowly across the harbor. And the New York Yacht Club's America's Cup Committee would come over, hop politely onto the dock, maybe onto your boat, and they'd say, "Gentlemen, thank you very much, but you have been excused from further participation."
Yeah.
And I've always used that expression.
Yes.
And it was on this day that Mr. McEnroe was excused
from further
participation, or defaulted, as they say politely, in the tennis world. Okay. That gets us to the last leg, and it's a little bit longer last leg than usual. We're not quite up against our 2-hour time, but 14:57 here in San Francisco. A last leg saluting the 100 years of racing of the Royal Ocean Racing Club, which started in 1925. They're celebrating all year this year. They've already got a fantastic registration, advanced registration for the Fastnet races. We told you on Friday's show, and Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin told us that they broke all records in how many people have signed up for the Fastnet, which is not until August. So Clay Embley say he will use that phrase he does use that phrase when I have to terminate someone's employment. You've been excused from further participation. Well, we don't have the finish video yet, but we have the start video of the RORC's transatlantic race, which now has ended. We'll tell you the winner after the video, but a fabulous video it is.
I think I saw it coming. Now I'm in a free fall with nothing to hold on to. Racing for the end, praying for the wind. Just slow down the feeling and let me somewhere new. Staring down the ground, it's coming soon. Wishing I could just fall into you.
Today we are part of the 11th edition of the Rock Transatlantic Race. The wind forecast looks amazing. We will have 16 knots in the start line.
Very excited. This is my first transatlantic race, so I'm fulfilling a little bit of a lifelong dream as an F-18 sailor for most of my life. This is the thing to do.
I've been here quite a lot. I love the place. I can't get enough of it. Great spot to sail from.
The island has got an energy that you bring along in the crossing. Hopefully it will work.
The routing looks like all downwind, and no one's going to argue with that. We know the boat. We got a group that's sailed together a lot in the past, so we feel like we can push the boat at a high level. Safety is probably the most important thing, especially on a race like this, with such a great distance. But as they say, to finish first, you must first finish. So it's always on the top of our mind.
A few days before the start, we amended the course. We looked at it like an inshore race. We wanted to make the race as tactically challenging and interesting as possible, and by removing the Canary Islands, it gives the boats all of their options as soon as they go around the mark at Porto Calero.
It looks like the African coast is a little bit high risk compared to the other way, but we won't know until we know exactly what the latest routing is.
I am looking forward to basically the freedom you get when sailing, and that's just a feeling I don't think you can get anywhere else except for offshore sailing and learning things you can't learn anywhere else.
So normally at home I'm sailing on the Maersk 24 or on the F-18. As a navigator on Haspa Hamburg, we have to do a lot more navigation here on the tactics. It's not so much about it as a strategy, a whole new experience. Because there's a north route, there's a southern route, and I've done a lot of preparation at home. I've looked at different routes, different years, but now I've been speaking with a lot of the pros on Tequila, on Inonora, and we're all saying 24 hours at least difference, and the south will still be faster. So everybody has been really nice, giving us help, giving us some tips, some advice, and I've learned a lot, and I will learn a lot more in the coming days, and it's a great experience to have to be able to do that.
You should be doing this because there's nothing more fun than a day in, day out, constant conditions, predictable swell, and just ripping down the waves and just flying this thing to 20+ knots and, always looking to hit that 30-knot mark on the GPS speed. That is the goal of every hour, every day for 10 days. That is absolutely awesome.
Nice video, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Huh? Mm-hmm. Bravo Zulu to the Royal Ocean Racing Club celebrating their 100th year And this Transat race did finish. At least the first few boats have finished. Yesterday, that is the former Rambler 88. That's Brian. It looks like Byron, but it's Brian Earhart, who's a New York Yacht Club member. Won his Juan K boat, the Maxi 88. Again, as I said, formerly the Rambler 88, George David's boat. And that is Lucky, as she crossed the finish line outside Camper Nicholson's Port Louis Marina in Grenada on Monday, yesterday, at 09. Remember, we had Andrew McIrvin on the watch party, and he was going to go greet the boats, right? So he did. He's down there. At 09:19:41 UTC. So bravo Zulu to them. And by the way, Lucky's elapsed time eclipsed the record set by Comanche, the VPLP 100, in 2022. It eclipsed it by an hour, 25 minutes, and set a new Rourke transatlantic race monohull race record of 7 days, 20 hours, 34
that's incredible.
minutes and change. It is incredible. Well done to the crew. And I'm even, because I will be admonished otherwise. I always try to put the crew names in when we do a Bravo Zulu. And that, again, is Brian Earhart, good German name, New York Yacht Club member. Antonio Cuervas, Brad Butterworth, Brian Giorgio, Charlie Enner. I mean, look at the talent on this boat. Chris Lefferdink, Danielo Radavero, Dean Phipps, Yaka Signori, Jonathan Chloe, and Jonathan Rankine, Juan Vila, Spaniard, superb navigator, Peter Van Niekerk, Rodney Daniels, Sam Mason, Samuel Rosenbaum, Scott Beavis, Simon Daubney, the superb Kiwi part of Russell's, Tight Five, Stuart Wilson, Will McCarthy. Bravo Zulu to them all. Bravo Zulu also to our Super FOSI, Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin, who was there.
Lovely.
To present the trophy to Brian Earhart after they took monohull line honors for the 2025 Rourke Transatlantic race. And that, of course, is the IMA Transatlantic Trophy in the hands of the two of them and our FOSI IMA, meaning International Maxi Association Secretary General Andrew McIrvin. Not only the talent, but the crew salary costs, yeah. That is a big boat. It takes a big crew to run that boat. That is a big boat, powerful boat. Bravo Zulu 2. I don't know Mr. Earhart, but I'm sure the esteemed Vice Commodore does, and maybe we'll get him on the show at some point down the road. Speaking of shows, we just have one here in the D block, Julia, before we wrap this show, number 802, up. And your favorite gentleman. We keep saying we're going to track down and try to get him on just to show him what we do. Andrew is a general. Yes, he is the Secretary General of the International Maxi Association. Back to the memes for Sail GP. This is a painful one.
Again!
On the Australian boat.
Again!
Oh!
Again!
Oh! Awful! And I didn't see that anywhere. Stingray didn't send that to me. I've got my legs crossed because it hurts so bad to see that. Awful, Julia.
I didn't have the same Rick.
If you're upset about that, you can give me a finger wag because not Stingray. I found that, came across my YouTube feed, and I grabbed it and put it on because why not?
Why not?
Huh?
Why not?
These memes are helping our sport, I guess, I suppose.
Probably.
Alan Long is saying. Oh. Awful. That's nuts, Ryman is saying. Yeah. That would kill my knee, my new knee, Holtzman is saying. Joe, how's your knee doing? I hope you're... Ouch! Got to go. Thanks, Tom, Julia, Dawn, all the FOSI for another great show. Thank you, Fritz Mueller down in Miami. I've had days like that, Clark Shaven is saying. Anyone else? We'll give you one last crack, no pun intended, in... Got to go. Okay, that's it. 2 hours and 6 minutes. We're done with this one, Julia.
Right.
We're to the finish line. Thank goodness. You like to say.
Yes. Don't miss this opportunity to like, follow, and share.
Fellow. Well, you were watching that guy. With,
I'm thinking now.
Thinking about his.
Yeah.
The fellow.
But I especially share you guys because that has geometric impact.
Thank you. And I got to go to Claire's comment. She's wondering if that's playing the cajon. The cojones. Oh, man. That's a clever comment, Commodore.
Yes.
Like, follow, and share. Banner is agreeing. And by the way, comments are welcome. Even a replay as you're watching this. We're getting a couple thousand views typically per show. We appreciate all of you, whether you're watching live or in replay. We especially appreciate those of you who give us a little money.
Yes.
A few bucks per month or more via Patreon, or just send us a check or send us a bottle of bourbon cream so we can pour some in Julia's coffee. We didn't do that today.
No.
Patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. Thanks to Pierre DeYoung for your kind comment. Thanks to everybody who no ball games on deck. Oh, gosh, Graham Sweeney. Oh, no ball games on deck. Thanks to everybody who gave us audio, video, and more. Meaning images. Love the show. Ted Ryman saying to us, thank you. And thanks to everybody who gave us all of that material media for the show. Julia, final thought?
No, it was another sort of frenetic day.
Frenetic show.
Yeah.
It was indeed. Well, when you have a guest, it's always a little more challenging when you have a guest. But Dawn,
She was wonderful.
what a fabulous guest she was. Eh?
Yeah.
Huh? Thanks, Dawn. If you're still watching, I'm sure she's on to other stuff. Good show. Thanks, all Mark. Thank you to Mark Holland. Thanks, everybody. Hope to see you on Friday. In the meantime, go sailing. And if you can, sail safe. I gotta sail fast. I can't remember. After 800 shows, I can't remember. Sail fast, sail safe, have fun, Julia.
I forgot it the other day, too. I know.
Ciao for now.
Yeah.